After hundreds of interviews on both sides of the table, I've learned two things that completely changed how I approach these conversations. And most people get both of these things wrong. Throughout my career, I've been in a lot of interviews, moving between roles, exploring the market, interviewing for positions that were in my core skill area and some that definitely were not. I've also been on the hiring side, helping to lead technical interviews as well as interviews for leadership roles. I've been part of the decision team for choosing which candidates to hire. 15 years of living in interviews taught me something most career advice completely misses. And if you're interviewing right now, or you will be soon, these two lessons could change everything. Lesson 1. It's okay to say no thank you. When you're talking to someone at a company and something starts to feel off, say the tasks and projects they're talking about during the interview don't actually fit with the job description, or they don't fully answer your questions about things like how many hours does the team usually work, the job might not be a good fit. When this happens, it's okay to be clear and tell the interviewer that you might not be the candidate they're looking for. I know that this sounds scary, especially if you really need a job, but here's the thing. I've seen candidates waste months when they ended up in a role that wasn't the right fit. Best case, their day-to-day work life was incredibly stressful. Worst case, they ended up leaving after a few weeks or months and had to start their search all over again. So when you're in the interview, if it just doesn't feel right, it's okay to say no thank you. You're probably saving yourself wasted time and energy if you were going to try to force it to work. Lesson 2. You don't need to answer the question asked. When you're in the technical part of interviews, you'll get asked about specific technologies or situations. If you don't know the answer, then you don't have to answer that question. Oh, wait, hear me out here. I know this sounds weird, but the interviewer, they're trying to understand two things. First, your level of technical expertise, and second, how you think through technology problems. So what you can do instead is answer a different question. Say something like, oh, well, I haven't worked with that technology recently, but that reminds me of a project I did this year where we built out the infrastructure to support, and on, to whatever you actually worked on. Pulling from your own technology experiences and ideally having a related example to the question gives the interviewer those two things they're looking for, your depth and your thought process. This works. I've used this approach to get multiple offers. So it's okay to not answer the question asked, but do tell them about your experiences. Now, real talk here. Comfort level with these approaches depends on where you are in your career. Getting your first role in tech, it's totally normal to make some trade-offs. When you're first starting out, getting hands-on experience anywhere is likely the top priority. That's totally fine. But as you grow, you'll start to feel where saying no thanks fits, and where answering your own questions makes sense. Here's what works at every level. Be specific about the roles you pursue. Tell your story, why you're interested in those roles and what you can do for that company. And seek out every opportunity to have interviews, even if the jobs aren't perfect fits. You need to talk to as many people as you can. The job market is tough. Interviewing is draining. But remember, knowing when to say no thanks and when to answer your own questions, these aren't just tactics. They're signs that you know your worth. If you're interviewing this week, keep these things in mind. You might find the perfect moment to use them. Thanks. See you later.